glasses. Your girl is super blind. Let me go ahead and let me know. Thumbs up if you can hear me. Thumbs up if you can hear me. Hey, Erica. Welcome, welcome. Thank you, guys. I appreciate that. I had a little bit of technical difficulties last week, so I wanted to make sure the audio was crisp, clear. Perfect. All right. Awesome, awesome. Hey, Ryan. Welcome in. So, y'all already know who the guest is. There's no more surprises here. I know that I did pose a challenge for you guys to guess who the guest was, and no one guessed it, which I was really shocked because I could have swore someone was going to guess it. But no problem at all, guys. We're going to go ahead and still make it a whole vibe and a whole situation for the night. I am going to have a little giveaway tonight for participation. So tonight's all about participation. I'm going to be having my moderators keep an eye on the chat. So for my moderators, big shout out to all of you guys in the chat that are moderating. We got BME in the building. We have Miss Lady Mia, who may pop in and out. Janae from Berry Sisters up in the building. What's up, Berry Cousin? Simba Girl, welcome in. Kodak. Danielle, welcome in. So tonight is a night that's super eventful. You guys, like I said, you already know who the guest is. I am going to be giving a giveaway out. So stay tuned for that till the end. Participation is going to be key. That's all I'm going to say to you guys with regards to that. So make sure you stay through the entire night because you don't want to miss out on the giveaway. So just a quick little few things here before we get started. You guys already know this is season 2 of Talk Berry to Me, where we talk all things bariatric and beyond. So I'm your host, Shar, aka BSG Bestie. If you haven't already started following me, go ahead and give me a follow. Yay, I'm glad you guys are excited. So for my returning viewers, you already know the vibes. For those who are new here, go ahead and share this live with the challenge tonight. Is going to be about 10 friends. We're going to share it with 10 friends. If you guys can do me that quick favor, share the live with 10 friends. Once you've done that, 10 or more, if you want to go to the limit and go 15, go for it. We're going to go big tonight, guys. So go ahead and share that. Natalia, welcome in, my love. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Amber in the building. I see you guys. Hey, Haley. Thank you so much for joining, everyone. We're not going to hold this up too much longer. I just, again, want to shout out a few people here in the community. Berry Meal Experience. They are live every Taco Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Mountain, and 5 p.m. Pacific time. The host for that show is Tony D and Rab. They talk all things bariatric from the male perspective, so you don't want to miss that. In addition to them, we have Berry Unfiltered every other Monday. They are live at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Mountain, and 5 p.m. Pacific time. Wednesday, we have Berry Sisters. It is a trio, and they are live on Wednesdays, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 7:30 p.m. Central, 6:30 p.m. Mountain, and 5:30 p.m. Pacific time. I think I covered just about everyone. So if I missed the show, just drop it in the chat. I want to just point out, Janae from Berry Sisters has a guided bariatric journal called Digress and Digest, and I do have that linked in my TikTok shop. So make sure you check that out. For your supplement needs, y'all already know I'm a ProCare girly. So for 10% off, use code VSGBestie and hook yourself up with some vitamins. We need them, right? So without further ado, are you guys ready for my guest? I'm excited, but I need to know how you guys are feeling in the chat because I need to see more sharing. Sharing is caring, right? We want to make sure all of our friends are in here and are participating tonight. Thank you so much. You guys are so sweet. Thank you for the hand hearts. I appreciate it. We are rocking and rolling. Yes, yes, yes. So yes, tonight's guest has a really, really long resume, and rightfully so. This person is very influential in the bariatric community. I'm acting like you guys don't know who it is, but either way, I'm going to give you a little bit of background, and of course, I'll let him come up here and tell us a little bit more, but this person has 17 years in a solo private practice focusing on bariatric surgery and foregut surgery, which is essentially gallbladder surgery and things of that sort. under the training, he was trained under some of the most renowned bariatric doctors in the industry, with over 100 peer-reviewed publications, over 1,300 cited over 1,300 times. Currently, the president of the Texas chapter of the ASMBS and chair of the research committee. So he was just recently voted onto the executive council for the ASMBS. You guys, y'all already know who I'm talking about. But without further ado, I want to bring up Dr. Clapp. Welcome, welcome.
Hey, good seeing you.
Hey, how's it going? Can you hear me loud and clear?
Thanks for having me. Thanks for the
All right,
introduction.
let me see. I'm hearing you a little low, Dr. Clapp. Let me put up my volume. There we go. Let's try that again.
But yeah, no, thanks for having me and thanks for the nice introduction.
Absolutely. And I didn't even have enough paper to cover how much stuff you do here. You're a busy man.
My passion. I love bariatric surgery. I like taking care of patients. I like writing about it, studies, research, and being involved in the national and state level to try to get more exposure for bariatric surgery and get more coverage for that.
Absolutely. Like, how did you even end up in the bariatric realm? There's so many fields in the medical world. What drew you into the bariatric industry?
So I'm from Texas, but I did my residency in Arizona, and part of that training was with some foregut bariatric surgeons in Oregon, and they were so influential. The first day in clinic, I knew it's kind of what I wanted to do. I mean, general surgery is full of a lot of kind of sometimes like a lot of death and destruction. I mean, cancer and trauma and gunshot wounds and things like that. So it's sometimes it's I mean it's happy, you know, when you cure somebody's cancer, this or that. But it's nothing like bariatrics where you go in and you take care of the root cause of the problem. You give people their life back. You extend their life, and their quality of life just goes off the charts. And so to me, that was like a no-brainer. It's fun. Technically, they're great operations. Patients are awesome, and you make a big difference in their life. So it was a no-brainer. So I started that about 18 years ago, never looked back.
I love that. And now I know you said you're currently in solo practice. Is that different now for you being in solo practice, or do you like the idea of having other peers in there with you?
No, I've always been solo practice. I did my fellowship in Houston after I got done in Arizona, and I did that at University of Texas at Houston with Eric Wilson, and then I moved back to my hometown, El Paso, and I've kind of been here ever since in solo practice. So it's not. I mean, it's got its challenges, but you know, you're your own boss. Well, the patients are your boss, but other than that, you're your own boss, and you kind of make your own decisions, and it's been a good fit for me.
I love that. How was the recent annual conference at the ASMBS? I saw you were kind of doing a little photo ops with Dr. Now and a few other providers in the industry. How was it?
It was great. I mean, he's great. He's a lot of fun. I met him last year, and he's on the other end of the state, but we're both Texans. And so it was the most best attended one that we've ever had. It was in San Diego. I had 5 or 6 research projects. I had 3 invited topics I spoke about, and then you know now that I'm in the executive council and the program committee, we planned the next one and stuff. So it was great. It's great to see all my old friends. I think they're the greatest group of surgeons in the world. I love being with them. And you know, it's a chance to share our experience, to learn from each other, and it rejuvenates you as a professional to do something like that.
I have to ask. I know that there's a big buzz right now in the GLP-1 community. Has that had an impact at all with your practice, or are you seeing some return patients who are wanting the GLP-1s now?
Yeah, it's really affected practices across the country, not just mine. So my volume probably dropped about 25-30%. That seems to be pretty standard across the country. Some people are hit worse than that, especially on the East Coast. But as we release this medication to millions and millions of people, we're finding some of the limitations of it. We're finding out some of the side effects of it that can be quite serious. And we found the rebound effect. So if you're going to have to be on it forever, which, you know, okay, that's all right. I mean, you're on blood pressure medication forever, things like that, or thyroid medication, but it's expensive. It's prohibitively expensive. And the rebound can be pretty dramatic. So what I'm seeing in my practice is I'm seeing people come back. Like, well, I was on it and I lost like 10 pounds. I didn't lose what I thought I was going to lose. And it's really expensive. My insurance doesn't want to pay for it. Like, can you just do the surgery? So I think we're going to see a rebound in the next year or so of people going back to surgery.
Gotcha, gotcha. Now I know there has been some dispute in the bariatric community about moderation versus kind of sticking to the plan. Do you have any thoughts about that?
moderation for
Food, what we eat, the type. Are we sticking to the meal plan, or are we kind of deviating with moderation?
because I hate on Cheetos because I like them so much, but I can't eat them because if I open one bag, I'm gonna eat the bag, right? So moderation doesn't work for everybody, right? I mean, sometimes what it does is it opens the door to our old bad habits, and we can fall into the just this once trap where we're like, okay, well, I'm just gonna have it today, and it's like, yeah, once you didn't come this far to come this far. Once you start going down those pathways, for some people, it can be very, very difficult to rein that back in. And when we gain weight, if we gain weight 40 pounds in a month, we would freak out. We would be like, oh my God, I got troubleshoot, there's something going on. But when it's half a pound a month, it's very hard to notice it coming back. And then it's very hard to get control of it again. So, I mean, everything in moderation, but sometimes going down those pathways isn't, or opening those doors again is not the way to do this. And it's easier just to not have to deal with it in the future. But it's easy for me to say that. I know it's a very difficult thing to do in practice.
Yeah, you did get a lot of hate about the Cheetos thing. Actually, that's how I came across your your page.
Double down on it.
So he doesn't hate Cheetos. He's just looking out for our best interest, guys. So don't chew him up about the Cheetos. No pun intended.
Commercial, in the Super Bowl like 3 or 4 years ago, they're like, that guy licks that other dude's fingers. And it's like, yeah, these things are designed to be, to attract you. They light up the same reward centers in your brain as cocaine does. This is not an accident. Those companies made those foods like that. They hit the sweet point of salt, sugar, and fat, and it hits you right in the brain. One of my research interests is doing resting state functional MRIs on sleep gastric mutations. I have a series of about 40 right now. We published a couple of papers on it. We've got a couple more under review. And it's interesting because you start looking at how the brain changes with obesity and then with the weight loss. And so we have these central systems that are pretty complex. But yeah, that's an addictive substance. So yes, Cheetos.
I know that you said your focus is in the neurological effects of bariatric surgery. Have you found any kind of research that has proven anything significant as of recently about the neurological effects?
So a resting state functional MRI, it looks at connections in between different areas of the brain. And so we can show definitively that that changes quite dramatically because we have this series of patients where we did an MRI before surgery, 6 months and 1 year. And not only do just different regions of your brain communicate differently, your brain actually changes shape a little bit, you increase the amount of white matter in your brain, and other effects like that are we didn't really expect. So it's kind of a fascinating field of study. They're expensive to do. We have to get funding, so we had some grants for that. But we want to continue that, and we're just starting a collaboration with Pennington Research in Louisiana, Louisiana State University. And so when we combine our resources, I think we'll be able to find out a little bit more.
Now I know that we had talked a little bit about the GLP-1s. One of the main things that come up is food noise. Have you have any suggestions for how to manage food noise? I know with the GLP-1s, they say it helps reduce that, but I'm not sure how you feel or if there's any truth to that from what you've studied thus far.
No, it does. I mean, if what you mean by food noise is changes in your in the hormonal control of your gut, then yeah, the GLP-1 receptor agonists do that. In fact, it's not too far-fetched to say that a GLP-1 receptor agonist like Ozempic or Wegovy, semaglutide, is actually a gastric bypass in a shot. It really is because, and if it wasn't for the work of bariatric surgeons looking at gut hormone levels and communication between the gut and your brain, I don't think the pharmacology companies would have driven so far forward because we started to notice decrease in things like GLP-1 or ghrelin or peptide YY, and then we could start making the pharmacological agent to target that, right? So yes, it does reduce food noise. I mean, I'm long-winded. I'm going to talk a little technical, so just call me back in if I start doing that. But yeah, I love that part of surgery, of bariatric surgery too. And I don't see the GLP-1 receptor agonists as being sort of my enemy or anything like that. I see them as a very valuable tool that I can use to get people down to a safe level before surgery or get them back on track after surgery. I would encourage everyone to think of obesity using sort of a cancer model, right? So like if you have cancer, you don't just like say do surgery and cut it out and you're done, right? No, you do chemotherapy, you might do radiation, and it never ends. You do surveillance, and maybe you have to do chemo years later. Maybe you have to do another surgery on it. And obesity is a sort of chronic disease where we have to think of it as a lifelong problem that is going to take more than one modality to fix: surgery, well, lifestyle, sure, diet and exercise, and things like GLP-1 receptor agonists. And this is the first generation. Just wait, in 5 to 10 years, the medication is going to be great. And so I think we're just going to be doing these things as a having the same toolbox and trying to attack the problem of obesity from a bunch of different directions.
I like that. I also feel like that's probably going to be the trajectory of this long term. I'm also a person who I like to look at the research, I like to look at the studies. One of the main things that I've noticed with bariatric surgery, and one of the questions that comes up quite a bit in the community is, well, is it reversible? Is there something I can do after? And I'll let you chime in on that because I've done my own research, but that's a question that gets posed quite a bit.
So reversibility is going to depend on each operation. Like for example, the lap band is like reversible, right? You take it out. It's not done much nowadays. I haven't put one in since 2011, but I did a bunch of them back in the day. That's truly reversible. Bypass is actually truly reversible. I can put a bypass back together relatively straightforward. Did one last week. Usually it's for a metabolic problem or somebody that has malnutrition, but you can do it for ulcers that won't go away, things like that. So bypass is reversible. Sleeve is not. We can't put the stomach back in. It has to be converted to something else if there's an actual problem. There's 4 different operations that you can convert a sleeve to. The one in anastomosis gastric bypass, the gastric bypass, you can convert it to a SADI, or you can convert it to a DS. Oh, 5. You can convert it to well, no, I said one in anastomosis gastric bypass support. When you start looking at the switch procedures like the SADI and the DS, those are very hard to reverse anatomically, but I can reverse them functionally, meaning that I can make it so that it really isn't having the effect that it had. Like say, for example, a DS, you can have a lot of malnutrition with a DS. You can have, like 10 bowel movements a day, things like that. I can move the limbs of the DS around to make it so that doesn't happen. But reversing it anatomically, very, very difficult, and it can be dangerous because you're putting the duodenum back to the duodenum, which is, if you have a leak there, it's a big deal. So it's easier just to move one of the limbs farther proximally, and then you reverse it functionally, but not anatomically. And I can explain all that stuff if that's unclear, because I know it's kind of technical.
No, that makes sense. Just from what you're saying, it's not a full fix. It's more like making adjustments to make that person's surgery a little bit more, I guess, uh, maintainable if they're having issues with it.
Yeah, and that and I've done that a number of times with the DS. DS is a great operation. That and the SADI, they're up and coming. I also run the numbers task force for the American Society of Metabolic and Bariatric Surgeons. So I publish a paper every 2 years about the state of bariatric surgery in the U.S. And it's doubled in the last 2 years, but I still don't think we're going to see it reach the sort of volumes of the bypass or the sleeve because of its side effect profile. I think that's overblown a little bit. You can recover with DS, but it is technically a difficult operation.
Gotcha. So I hope that answers that question. There was a question in the chat about mental health support for your private clinic. Are you guys referring out currently for additional mental health support for your patients?
Yeah, I think it's really important. I probably should do another TikTok on that. I did one about a year ago about how you should have a mental health support plan in place for after surgery. I mean, everybody's got to go through that one clearance, and I don't know that that's really good enough. This is going to change your life in ways it's hard to imagine. Sometimes people rely on food as their comfort. Sometimes it's the thing that they turn to, and when we take that away from them, it can be very, very hard to deal with. And I've seen it drive people into deep depressions. I've seen people transfer addiction to alcohol or sex. It can be a tough thing to deal with. So having a plan and having somebody to talk to you afterwards, even if it's a support, maybe it's not a formal psychologist or psychiatrist, it could be a support group, but I think having a plan for that is a good idea. One thing that we learned in the pandemic was that you don't have to be in the same room with people to get help, right? So I currently am using a lot of telehealth psychologists because the patients in the comfort of their home, they don't have to go anywhere, they can be across the country, but they can still get the same help. So that's the way we've been kind of transitioning to telehealth for psychological stuff.
I love that. I know that, like you said, for me, it was kind of the same thing. I had my psychological eval to have the surgery. And if I'm being very honest, I don't know that I was 100% truthful because I wanted the surgery so bad. So I think that a lot of people have also shared that sentiment and then realized, oh, well, there's probably a reason they were asking these questions. A lot of people hit really low lows and then wonder why.
Yeah, like you, I mean, until you go through it, you to me, I would. I mean, I haven't been through bariatric surgery, right? But like, I've taken care of a lot of patients. I remember when I got in the army, right? When I first went in the army, I was like, oh my god, I had no idea. I thought I knew. My dad was in the army. I was an army brat. I grew up, overseas in Germany, and that's how we got back to the states at the army base. And I thought I knew what I was getting into. I was like, yeah, you don't know. And so bariatric surgery is kind of like that. You can't fathom how many things are going to change in your life. Like my wife's Mexican. I live in a community like high number of Hispanics, right? Family's the most important thing. Food's the most important thing. It's every society really, but people don't realize like, oh my gosh, every time I go to a family party, my tia is going to be like, oh, you need to eat more. It's like, no, you don't. So I think being upfront with your family and your friends, giving their support, engaging them will be helpful. Otherwise, you're going to feel a little left out. Maybe you're going to feel like you can't participate at family gatherings or stuff like that, and that's something you have to think about.
Yeah, that's one of the things naturally I think was hard for me because culturally I'm also Latina, so it's navigating not only the mental health part of it, but family and they don't know the lifestyle, so that can be presenting some challenges. It can be challenging for an individual who, if you don't eat, it's offensive. Like my grandmother, if you don't eat all her food, she's upset. So do you get any pushback from your clients like, well, listen, culturally this is not going to work, or have you heard anything like, or I've regained because I had to go to the cookout?
Yeah, I hear that a lot, and I think the best thing there is to just be upfront with your family, and it's for your health. It's not really because you look better, so you can whatever. It's not cosmetic. It's for your health. And so bringing them in early, like, hey, I tried everything else. This is literally the last thing for me to do, and it's working, and I want your support. I think bringing them early because they are going to be supportive. I mean, Hispanic families can kind of be brutally honest, like with nicknames and things like that, but they still love you and every family. And they'll, if I think explained in the right way and enlisting their support from the beginning would be the way to handle that. And by the way, it's every culture in the world. It's not. I mean, Jesus broke bread with the disciples, right? I mean, they sat down and had a dinner together, right? That's just how we share fellowship. And so just bringing your family in. I mean, it is your decision. It's a private decision. You don't have to tell everybody in the world, but I think key members of your family would be a good idea. I have had people literally show up to the operating room. There's a guy sitting there next to the patient, and he doesn't know they're getting a gastric bypass. And it's like, wow, okay, now that can be a little awkward because if you don't even tell your husband, I mean, like they just think you're going to get your gallbladder out or something like that. It's like, yeah, no, it's a gastric bypass, and I've seen that happen more than one time. That's an awkward thing for me.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of awkward things in this community, so I could just imagine you're firsthand dealing with it. One of the things that has come up quite a bit, and I don't know if it's in your brochure, have you noticed the bariatric divorces at all?
Yeah, I did TikTok on that too. I had TikTok and everything. Yes. Okay. So there. First of all, we live in a society where 50% divorce rates are normal, right? So it's not like it's that much greater than the average person, right? But there is a little higher divorce rate after weight loss surgery. I think a lot of times, and I'm gonna, I don't want to offend any men in the audience, but like a lot of times there's guys that are just kind of keeping women down, and they're like telling them nobody loves them, and they're ugly, and nobody would ever take them, and they don't. It's in a, that's not a blanket statement, but I've seen it happen more than one time. And so every time a patient comes and tells me they got divorced, I'm like, congratulations. That's like my first words, not like, oh, I'm sorry to hear that. It's like, congratulations. I mean, it probably happened for a reason. Now, that being said, about divorce, you have a 2 times greater risk of meeting somebody after weight loss surgery. This has actually been studied. There's papers written about this. You have a 2 times greater risk of starting a new relationship after weight loss surgery. So yeah, there's this rate of getting divorced, but it kind of opens up some other doors. And maybe those are the people that you really should be with because those are the people that find you for who you are and not somebody that's like keeping you down. And again, that's a blanket statement. That's not every relationship. I've had so many couples I've done together or people that are like, I mean, I had this one gentleman and the insurance didn't cover it. And he literally took money from his retirement to like pay for her surgery. And I mean, they've been married like 20 years, but he had supported her through thick and thin their whole life. And there's a lot of people like that. But there's also a lot of negative relationships that maybe it's better to get out of.
I know some folks are going out of the country to have bariatric surgery. Are you getting any of them coming into your practice for continuity of care, or you don't currently see any of those patients that go out of the country?
I think that, as a member of the ASMBS, and now, taking on a leadership role as a state chapter president in Texas, I think as bariatric surgeons, we are uniquely situated to take care of this unique group of patients, right? And it's really our duty. And so I do see patients from wherever. That problem's not going to go away. I spoke at that the ASMBS. That was one of my invited topics. And I was on a panel with a Mexican surgeon from Monterrey and a guy from Oklahoma. And the thing is like, until we fix our healthcare system, people are going to keep going there. There's no way that we can compete with those prices. And so recognizing that, about 2 or 3 years ago, I started to go to Mexico to speak at conferences. And so I know my counterparts there. I know the one across the border in Juarez, because we're just, El Paso, Texas, and Juarez are it's just like barely a river there. I've gone to see him work. He'll send me patients that are Mexicans that don't want to have surgery there because, they just feel that they perceive it might be better here. And I'll send him patients for people that really can't afford it here. There also have a friend in Tijuana like that. His name's Ariel Legado Ortiz. The guy in Juarez is Pepe Rodriguez. So I've tried to build a relationship with them. There are certainly reputable surgeons there. Their volumes are high, so they're good surgeons. But you need to have a follow-up plan afterwards if you are going to go to Mexico. And the funny thing is I have a lot of friends in Europe, and because I speak there too, and they have the same problem in Turkey. So like Mexico, Turkey is their Mexico. Like people from England can't afford it, they go to Turkey. So it's kind of an interesting thing because it happens all over the world.
I've been noticing a lot of more medical tourism, and I was curious where your stance was on that. I know, and not no shade to the folks that go to other countries at all, because I know a lot of people in the community who have had surgery in Mexico and have had success, and they've gotten the continuity of care. It is expensive to have surgery out of pocket here in the States. Is the ASMBS trying at all to assist with advocacy for coverage through insurance, or do you know, if there's anything happening right now to help families or individuals who may want to have the surgery and insurances are just not covering it?
Well, we constantly have efforts on the Hill legislatively to try to get bariatric surgery covered more. It's covered by a lot of insurance companies. It really is covered by Medical and Medicare, and then a lot of private insurance companies. But we're always trying to do more efforts to get it paid for. We do have a statement about tourism, but mainly it's look, if you're going to do it, do your research before you go over there, and certainly have a follow-up plan. Now, there are very reputable surgeons there that do a great job. They have every kind of accreditation that they can get internationally. But there's some fly-by-night stuff, and it's the old caveat emptor, the buyer beware. So you got to just do your research and make sure that it is a reputable surgeon.
Absolutely. And that goes across the board, whether you're doing surgery out of the country, in the States, do your research, right? You're putting your life in the doctor's hands, and you want to make sure it's a reputable doctor, someone who has your best interest at heart. A lot of times we go into consultation and we think we know what we want, but a doctor who really has your best interest may steer you in a different direction because it's a better choice due to your medical condition. Do you get a lot of those patients that come in and they're like, well, I want the sleeve, and then you determine that may not be the best fit for them?
Yeah, so pretty much every bariatric surgeon is going to have an idea in their mind of what operation is good for what person, like what characteristics. With the sleeve, if you have really horrible reflux, you might not really want to get a sleeve. It might get a lot worse, and you might end up getting a gastric bypass. So if you have some sort of esophageal disorder or really, really horrible reflux with hiatal hernia, maybe a bypass is better. If you're a really bad diabetic, a bypass is going to be better. If your BMI starts to reach into the 50s, then another operation besides a sleeve is going to be better. But a sleeve's going to fit probably 70, 80% of people that are coming into the office. They're going to do fine with it. It's a great operation. But I feel so strongly about that I actually, on my consent form, have possible conversion to bypass in the future, because we know that a certain number are going to go on and do that. And that's okay. The way the operation was created was a two-stage operation, really, for the DS. And then we started noticing that, we can do this, and not do the second part, and people do great. 80% of people do great. But I think it's very important to have that line of communication with the patient from the beginning. I don't want somebody coming back to me 2 years later, I don't want to bypass this, is your fault, blah, blah, blah. No, we talked about this. If you're getting surgery, you're accepting that there's a whole bunch of things that can happen. Low risk, but they can happen, and you need to kind of know that up front. So communication, I think communication is the key.
Absolutely. I think you have to be able to communicate with honestly with your doctor and also be very transparent about what your goals are, and that way you guys can meet somewhere in the middle. I think a lot of people don't express that all the time.
Thank you for bringing that up. That's the other thing that I try to do with patients is there's a calculator from the Michigan Bariatric Surgery Collaborative. Anyways, the calculator is on the App Store. It's called Weigh the Odds. And I did TikTok on this a long time ago. I should probably redo that one again. But what they did is they took the experience of the whole state of Michigan. They have this really nice research organization that's actually funded by Blue Cross, and they created a calculator using characteristics of patients. And I could probably tell a patient within 5 or 10 pounds probably what they're going to weigh at the end of the day. So it's kind of a nice thing to like pull that out and show somebody for a sleeve versus a bypass versus a DS, and like sometimes people have the expectations that aren't going to match reality. If they don't meet their expectations, they're going to feel like they failed, and they're going to feel like it wasn't worth it, and it's horrible. But when in fact they probably hit it right where they should have hit it, and I kind of like that to discuss that up front because it kind of gives them a realistic expectation of what they're going to expect from each operation. So that's called Weigh the Odds. It's an app. You can do it. You can download the app, or you can just look on Google and just calculate it. And if you put in stuff about yourself, your height, weight, like medical problems, and it will tell you exactly what you should weigh. So even you can even go back. Say you're a year out and you had a sleeve gastrectomy, and you're like, yeah, I should have lost that extra 25 pounds. I only lost 70 pounds, and I wanted to lose 100. Go back and put your original numbers in, and you'll see that you're doing pretty good actually.
I like that. I know one of the expectations that people look at is, hey, I had bariatric surgery. Should my diabetes full blown clear out? I still have hypertension. I still have diabetes. Do you get a lot of people with expectations to completely eradicate their diabetes?
Yeah, but the great thing about this calculator is it also tells you your likelihood of resolution of diabetes, high blood pressure, sleep apnea, and those common problems. So this calculator does a lot of stuff. So it's really kind of cool. So it's called Weigh the Odds. I live in Texas. I don't live in Michigan. I know those guys. They're awesome. But I think it's a great calculator for you to think of things like that. Now, diabetes, there was a lot of press for a while about it curing it. I would be careful with the term cure. I would say that it can put it in remission. But there's some caveats to that. So, like if somebody's had insulin-dependent diabetes for more than 7 years, they're probably not going to get off their medications. I mean, that's long-standing diabetes, but we can get it better controlled. But if you're under 7 years, you're just getting started insulin, there's a pretty good chance that we can make it go into remission and go away with a bypass. And sleep, yes, but not as reliably as the bypass.
And the app was called Weighing the Odds. And some folks were asking in the chat. You guys, we are at the halfway mark. I just want to remind you guys, if you haven't drank your water, make sure you stay hydrated, drink your water. If you haven't taken your supplements, take your supplements. It is non-negotiable. Talking about supplements, one of the questions that I had for our fact or fiction segment of the show is, do bariatric patients have to take supplements for the rest of their life?
Yeah, that's that. Yeah, like you said, it's kind of a no-brainer. It's non-negotiable. Although I constantly run the patients who are like, "Oh, I thought I only had to do it for the first year." No, you got to take vitamins the rest of your life. We're changing your anatomy with bariatric surgery. We're literally changing your body. And although the sleeve, it does not happen as much. It can happen. So I don't want people that had sleeves to go be like, well, I had a sleeve, so I don't have to do this. Nope, you still do. Look, you're signing up for that when you get weight loss surgery. You're signing up for lifelong change, right? And changing your body. And so you have to take vitamins the rest of your life. The number one lawsuit right now in the United States for bariatric surgery is actually people that get a thiamine deficiency, which is called Wernicke's encephalopathy, and it's hard to detect sometimes, and so it gets missed, and they can have permanent neurological problems. Take your vitamins. You gotta take your vitamins. It's not.
That is part of the process. So if you didn't budget for it, you might want to start doing that now. It's going to cost you more to not take them than to have to pay for them. So I would absolutely advise take your supplements.
Among some surgeons, and they won't even offer a DS to people that maybe Medicaid, because it's like if you're on Medicaid, then likelihood is you're government assistance for a reason, right? So if you can't afford those vitamin supplementations, especially in something like DS, I mean that can be pretty disastrous. So you have to commit to that long term. It's not easy. And people will tell me all the time, well, no, no, that's easy. I can do that. I take vitamins already. Nah, it's hard to take something every day of your life. It's really hard.
It is. It is. I think that it's important to know the pros and cons of not taking it. So I'm glad you did say that because I think a lot of people are very casual about their supplements. In reality, it's this is life or death, guys.
I saw a question just now. I'm going to address. Is somebody asking if VSG could be changed to a bypass for reflux or weight, and how much weight would you lose? I'll put a plug in for myself. I'm going to post a TikTok after this that addresses that exactly. It just happened to be on my list of. I don't make TikToks on the weekend. I do them like on Friday before, and then I just release them. That one's going out at like 8 o'clock tonight.
Make sure you check Dr. Clapp. He's got the goods in there. There's so many great fact or fictions on there, which is why this episode is amazing because there were some questions. Believe it or not, these are all questions that people sent. We're not going to address all of them, guys. I'm so sorry. But I have a scroll full of questions here. One of the other questions that came up after bariatric surgery, can I never drink again? And by drinking, they were referring to alcoholic beverages.
So I did a couple on this too. You could go back and look for them. But look, your life is not over. It's not. You're going to eat again. You're going to go out again. You're going to go to a restaurant again. And it's going to be your you know anniversary, and you're going to go to Vegas. And can you have a beer or a glass of alcohol? Yes. Um, I just spent a lot of time talking about moderation. This is absolutely a place where you have to have a lot of moderation. But again, your life's not over. It's your birthday. You want a glass of wine? That's fine. Beer, you might find will be a little uncomfortable because it's gassy. And I constantly have patients will tell me, well, I just drink vodka or I drink tequila. Well, that still has calories in it. And you do process alcohol differently after a bypass. You literally process it differently. With a sleeve, you reach drunkenness quicker. Like this has all sort of been studied, like by scientists and stuff. And so you have to be very careful. Where you might have been able to put a six pack away before, one White Claw, and you're going to be like, oh my god, I feel drunk. I'm going to make bad decisions. So be really careful with it. Treat it with respect. Don't do it every day, but yeah, on special occasions. I mean, your life's not over. And I'll just bring up marijuana. It's legal in 37 states, right? I mean, smoking in most forms of anything is kind of not that great for you. And for instance, wound healing, it hurts your heart and lungs, your vascular disease. But would a gummy kill you? No. I mean, there's really not that many calories depending on the gummy. It's something, again, that I wouldn't recommend doing every day. But I mean, is it going to be the end of the world if you do it? No, probably not. I think that data is starting to come out that it's not the greatest thing in the world. I mean, people tell me, well, it's organic. Well, sure it is, but so is opium. But the thing is like it's something that with moderation, I think it's okay, but you just got to be careful with everything. And again, addiction changes a little bit after weight loss surgery, so you don't want to transfer one thing to another.
Is it, I know this is not a fact or fiction question, this is a more me question. Is there something literally in the brain that changes? I know you mentioned a little bit about the neurological parts of it that causes these transfer addictions, or
So we haven't figured that out yet. That's would be really, I mean, technically, but what you can say is that psychologists will tell you that yes, sometimes that transference of addiction, it's a real thing, and then sometimes you can pick really negative things for it. Maybe it's exercise. Maybe you transfer to something like that, and that's fine. But yeah, like drugs or alcohol, there is a slightly higher risk of alcoholism after weight loss surgery, and a slightly higher risk of actually suicide. So again, these are deep seated problems that people have that a surgery is not going to fix. I mean, it can help. It can maybe make you less depressed. It can maybe make you feel more confident about yourself. But that's why I think it's so important to have psychological aftercare with this, because the problems that go along with obesity don't disappear with the weight loss surgery. And when you look at the fact that about 30 to 40% of all females getting weight loss surgery have been sexually abused, which is what we think the current numbers are, that's pretty striking, right? And that past doesn't disappear when you get surgery. So having that plan of support and that plan of like aftercare, I think is really important.
I agree. I agree. I have another question here. It says fact or fiction, complications from bariatric surgery are extremely common.
No. I mean, I guess it depends on how you define common, but so I published a paper looking at this. So the College of Surgeons runs a couple of databases, big databases throughout the entire country, where we collect data on patients. And for example, the MBS AQIP database, which is the bariatric one, collects data on 100% of bariatric patients for 30 days, and it's 240 different variables. It's de-identified. It goes through this like privacy committee and things like that. Like, all that stuff was set up years ago, 7 or 8 years ago. So we have data on almost 2 million people right now. And what I can tell you is when we compare it to things like a gallbladder or a hysterectomy or a hip replacement, appendectomy, things like that, it's literally safer than a gallbladder surgery or a hysterectomy. Like, and that's kind of a striking thing to say, like a gastric bypass is safer, but it is. And I mean, these are well-designed databases. We collect this data very diligently, and we can tell you that it's safer. Now, that doesn't mean things don't happen. I'm always hearing, well, my cousin's sister had a friend that had this other cousin that had this happen. It's like, well, what was the operation? Well, I don't know. Well, who did it? I don't know. What happened to them? Well, they died. I don't know. Well, what they died? Well, I don't know. And so, I mean, it's things happen in the operation, but statistically, you're at more danger of getting a complication during a gallbladder surgery. So, I mean, I don't want to minimize complications. I've had complications. Every surgeon, everybody that's done this has had that. But thankfully, it's become a very, very rare event. Now, that's like big serious things like death or blood clots or leaks, things like that. Things like nausea and vomiting are, 3 to 4% of people. The readmission rates or visits to the ER in the first month, it's like 2%, 3%, usually for dehydration. That's a complication, but it's not really, like a life-threatening thing.
Dehydration, constipation, it really varies from person to person, guys. So generally, it's a safer surgery than some other commonly done surgeries. So I know we get a lot of slack about, well, why didn't you just work out? You did this dangerous surgery. And I don't know that just working out was going to fix the issues. Do you hear a lot of that in your practice? People say I should just work out.
And I don't want to sound sarcastic, right? But it's like, look, what's the definition of insanity? It's doing the same thing over and over again and thinking you're going to get a different result. And like people ask me what my preoperative diets are, and I'm like, why would I talk to my patients about that? I do talk to them about diet and healthy eating stuff, but like I'm talking to a person that for their whole adult life has worked on this more than I have, and they've struggled through it, and they've tried every diet known to man. And then I'm like, why don't you just try the blah blah blah? Well, I mean, to me, that's only it's a little disingenuous for a healthcare professional to be saying things like that. Well, did you try keto or what? I mean, really, they've tried everything. My patient tried everything. And so now by the time they get to me, they even sometimes feel like, well, I'm going to fail at this too, but at least I can say I tried everything at that point. And that's a common sentiment. And I think it's kind of sad that patients have to think that way. It's like, no, this is a way to get help. And you've tried everything else. And if you had like a heart problem, you wouldn't think twice about going to a cardiac surgeon or a cardiologist and getting a stent placed, right? I mean, that's just what we would do. And so I think we need to get rid of that stigma. We need to destigmatize the treatment of obesity. Uh-oh, it says I'm getting live restricted for some audiences. They might be uncomfortable.
Yeah, I don't know if this has happened to you. This was actually one of my next questions. Have you had any pushback now that some platforms are getting a little finicky about the weight loss conversations?
No, I think what's happened with TikTok is that you have to be careful about mentioning the brand names of medications, right? But I think that's the way I've seen it. Like they don't want me to mention things like, the names of the drugs. I can say the class of drug, it's a GLP-1 receptor agonist. But when I mention the names, they restrict my TikToks, and like instead of getting my normal 20 or 30,000 views, it's like 3,000 because I think they've restricted it. But I don't think it's the weight loss per se. I think it's more like it's probably money. They probably think that if their drug's being mentioned, that Novo Nordisk should be paying up. That's probably what it is. I mean,
You guys, Dr. Clapp is still good. He's still in the building, guys. Don't worry. We're gonna rock and roll. We only have a little bit of time left, anyhow. But we're gonna go through these questions. One of the other questions that came up is, uh, can I skip fact or fiction? I can skip my soft food stage after bariatric surgery?
Um, so the way I do mine, and this is just me. I mean, every surgeon has their own way of doing this, and I'm a guidelines person. So my guideline is that for the first week, I do want people on a liquid diet. I start them on liquids 4 hours after surgery. Back in the day when I first trained, I mean, we'd keep people without eating or drinking. We'd do the upper GI. The next day was this whole thing. They were in the hospital for a long time. Yeah, I just started them like at this point, 4 hours afterwards. They come back to see me next week. Oh, and I hold the protein for the first couple of days because it seems to make people really nauseated. So I'm like, get your feet on the ground, get your liquids, and then start your protein in like 2 to 3 days. Then they'll come back in a week and I'll put them on a soft diet, which would be like frijoles, like de loya, kind of like, like that's been cooked for a long time. I'll put people on scrambled eggs, cottage cheese, things like that. I don't want them eating a T-bone, but pretty much they could probably eat most things at that point if they chew their food really well. But I think it's wise to go in a stepwise progression, like do that for another week or two. By the end of the first month, when they come back to see me, they should have already for that previous week started chicken, maybe some fish, stuff like that. So by the third week, I have people on like solid protein. But again, that's, listen to your surgeon. I mean, they're the ones that you got to deal with, not me. Um, I find patients are going to do what they want anyways. If they feel ready, they're going to move forward.
Definitely agree with that. We hear a lot of people tuning into their bodies and feeling they can move on to the next stage, but please do not take this live as medical advice. Please still see your medical professional. We are just talking general statements here, so you should still see your doctor. This is not this is not a replacement for that.
What is catching a banana on a? I don't know. What does that mean?
So, catching a banana is when you get put on TikTok timeout. So no, he's not on TikTok timeout. So he's still here with us, guys. But we're gonna tread lightly because cousin TikTok gets a little upset with us from time to time. But I do have a few more questions. I'm going to skip through some of these here because this looks like the Declaration of Independence, guys. I'm not kidding. This is like an entire scroll here. Uh, and thank you guys in the chat. We're almost at 50,000 likes, guys. That's amazing. Thank you, thank you, thank you. House facts or fiction? I can work out 1 week after surgery.
Okay, so one of the things about weight loss surgery is that, first of all, people have surgery a lot in the United States. Like not weight loss surgery, but just surgery. Like so, people, but probably most people listening have another surgery besides weight loss surgery. So when we look at wound healing, your body's pretty amazing. It's going to pretty much, unless you've got some big incision, like old school surgery, you probably should be walking about 4 hours after surgery. You should be walking 10 to 15 minutes a couple times a day. I like people walking because it's the easiest exercise. It's free. A treadmill's a good idea because you can just step off of it and you're not out in the middle of your neighborhood somewhere, or a stationary bike. So I want people doing that from the first week. But as far as weight or resistance training, I think you should probably wait a couple of weeks. Now, look, the other thing is the most important thing you can do is cardio workouts. It's great that you're trying to retain your tone and that you're trying to maintain strength, but really in the first year, it's going to be very hard to like build muscle. But I think cardio is going to be the thing that you really need to hit. And after 2 weeks, I have no restrictions on anybody, weights or otherwise. So 2 weeks is my cutoff, but I do want you active, going up and down the stairs, walking 10, 15 minutes times a day, even the week after surgery. Now, what I say about regular surgeries is you might be in pain and discomfort, which you'll have a little after weight loss surgery, but you're not tired the way you are in that first week. You guys might remember back to that, like you're getting like 400 calories a day, and you're like, oh my God, I'm just worn out. I was up and for 6 hours I had to take a nap. I went to Walmart and I had to take a nap. And that's normal. Your body's going to start going into ketosis around 8 to 10 days. You're going to go onto your soft foods and you're going to rebound. But in that first week, you can be quite tired and worn out easily. And that's normal. Expect that to happen. If that's happening a month out, you need to get more calories. You probably need to eat more frequent meals at that point.
Good point, Dr. Clapp. One of the other questions here, fact or fiction, bariatric surgery can affect fertility.
Yes, absolutely. So both males and females, it can affect fertility. So with females, you have an 80% increase in fertility rates, right? So, I mean, you got to get busy, right? I mean, it's not just going to be spontaneous. You got to, right. But if you're having sex, you have an 80% increase in fertility. So you got to be careful in that first year. And all of us, all bariatric surgeons have had that patient come in about 4 months, like, oops, okay, you're probably going to do okay, but you might derail your weight loss a little bit. So try to wait for a year to year and a half. It turns out that, like, as far as maternal health, fetal health, delivery characteristics, it turns out that there's not much difference in between waiting or not waiting. It's all safer than before surgery. It's safer to have a baby, conceive, carry the baby at a more normal weight than it is at a heavier weight. Now, for males, we see that their testosterone counts will climb, erections will climb, ability to ejaculate will get better. So it does improve it. Yeah, absolutely. Turns out that fat cells are not just this inert storage form. What they do is they're kind of hormonally active, and they aromatize our sex hormones, right? So you have female sex hormones like estrogen, progesterone, you have male testosterone, right? And everything's androgen in the middle, right? That's kind of like a sexless hormone. And you start driving things into the androgenic state when you have obesity. And so when you cut down that fat mass, that fat cell mass, it actually restores people back to their normal sex steroid levels that they should have. So yeah, makes a big difference.
That's amazing. And I am one that could attest to bariatric pregnancy. I had an entire IUD, and somehow, boop, I was one of those patients. You guys, we are down to the wire here. I have time for maybe one more here. Let's see which one we're gonna pick. And thank you guys for those who sent me questions. Some of these questions I picked out of my comments that were never really something I could answer personally. But let's see here. Is bariatric surgery is a quick fix for obesity? Fact or fiction?
That's my pet peeve. Like I did a series of bariatric pet peeves on TikTok, and that's one of them. It's just like it's not a quick fix. Oh my god! First of all, there's nothing easy about this, and those of you that have gone through surgery will attest to that. There is nothing easy about it. Not about the process. Not about like thinking about it and making that decision. Not about being in the operating room scared that you're going to die and leave your kids. It's not easy. You're not going to, by the way. It's not easy afterwards when you're socially with your family or at work or taking vitamins the rest of your life. It is not a quick fix. It is a commitment that the patient has to make that has to be 100% for the rest of their life. And you're going to work on it every single day. Now, I think that 90 plus, 95% plus of people are going to be happy they made the decision, but it's not easy and it's going to be work. Not a quick fix. Yeah, that drives me nuts. That does.
It drives me nuts too. And you heard it here from the doc himself. This is not the easy way out. While, some people think otherwise and they see the rapid weight loss, there's a lot that goes into this process psychologically, physically, emotionally. So please do not let anyone convince you that this is the easy way out. Chat, how are we feeling? We are down to the wire. We got 5 minutes left here, guys. I want to jump ahead and just say thank you so much to Dr. Clapp for joining me tonight. I'll be honest, I slid in his DMs. I was like, hey, Doc, I know you don't know me, but can you come hang out?
So, and I'm just going to put a plug in for myself. Like every question that you ask, I actually have a TikTok about. So I've been doing it now for a year. It was a challenge with one of my kids who got a marketing degree, who just graduated in May. And I was like, I can do that. And so we sat down and we kind of gamed out the hashtagging, which was kind of the hard part. And so literally everything that we talked about, I have a TikTok about. So they're 1 minute videos. I'm trying not to bore people. These are my opinions, but hopefully they're well-informed opinions. Things like diet and stuff like that, that's variable. But like the science part of it is hopefully well-informed. But yeah, be happy for you guys to come on over and see me at the Amazing Dr. Clapp. You got to have a handle right. So.
He's not kidding. He has a video for every topic.
This is like, bam, we were done. Like, wow.
The hour goes by really fast here when we're having good conversation. The chat is going crazy. They're informative. Absolutely. Dr. Clapp is the man. He was trained under some pretty heavy hitters, guys. So if you are on the fence about having bariatric surgery and you are in the El Paso area, he's your guy. Definitely check him out. Where can they find you outside of TikTok? Are you on any other platform?
So I kind of am on Instagram. I find that algorithm hard to deal with, and I don't like the editing software as much, but I'm trying to get better at it. But yeah, just Google me, my name, and I've got a website, and there's a forum where you can contact me. But yeah, I'd be happy to see anybody. I do see other people's patients. I mean, sometimes we can help people, sometimes we can't, but it's often worth taking a look at somebody and seeing if if there's something that can be done. Because there's people have questions.
You heard it. The next conference for the ASMBS, I think 2025. Let me see. I had it up here. It's going to be in Maryland. Did I get that right?
DC, but it's national. You know how DC is a city and it's not really.
Yeah.
So it's right below DC and actually in Maryland, in National Harbor. There's a Gaylord there, it's a big convention center. And then the year after, that's in San Antonio. Our next meeting is actually in Atlanta. We have a weekend meeting in November, and then that'll be in Atlanta.
And this will be open to the general public.
No, I'll be in Australia speaking at a meeting at the International Federation for Society of Obesity, which is sort of like the UN, like our American, the American Society is a, sort of a member of that, right? So that's in Australia this year. It was in Naples last year, so I'll be going to Australia. I'm presenting some of that brain research, and I'm on a committee, and I've got to talk about gastric bypasses.
Got it. All right, guys. So make sure, again, the amazing Dr. Clapp, if you haven't started following him here on TikTok and you've been living under a rock, go ahead and follow him. Please don't give him any hassles about Cheetos. If you're going to eat Cheetos, that is your own business, guys. He tried to warn you, but someone actually challenged me. They're like, you should bring a bag of Cheetos to this conversation.
Put a little gasoline on the fire, you know?
You guys, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. Look, I'm trying to be on my best behavior here, so don't chew me up. You guys, thank you so much. We're at 56,000 likes. You guys have been awesome all night. Oh, I see my mom's in the chat. Hola, mommy. Wow, but yes. Any final thoughts? Any final words of wisdom that you may want to bestow upon fellow bariatric community, folks who may be on the fence about surgery?
Well, so yeah, final thoughts about that is you know it has to be right for you. Don't let your doctor influence you. Don't let your family influence you, your spouse. You have to be ready inside of yourself for this. And when you're ready to make that decision and to reach for a healthy life, to extend your life, to be around for your family, then that's when you make the decision. This is not taken lightly. It's not something that you should just see a surgeon and do it the next day. This requires a lot of thought and a lot of research, and you have to be sure that's right for you. But I think most of you will find that, yeah, it was the right thing to do. It's not a quick fix.
And it's not a quick fix, guys. Thank you so much, Dr. Clapp. You guys know I cannot leave you guys without giving you a quick little word of affirmation. And if you don't mind, Dr. Clapp, I'm just going to close it out here for the night. I want to say thank you again. And this has been an awesome live, guys. I really do appreciate your presence. You guys, people throw shade on what shines. But when in doubt, hey, shine brighter. You guys, I love you. Don't let anyone dull your light. You guys are amazing. Do what you have to do for your health, for your life. We only get one of those. So stay shining.